Hey folks, this is Brent. Thank you for joining us for this second series of Try This at Work. We have a pretty exciting topic we're going to cover today. We'll get to that in just a few moments, but I want to go through a couple of logistics before we get started. If this is the first time you've joined us, this is a new initiative from a lot of us with a lot of passion around productivity and Microsoft 365 from Microsoft. And so we have set up this initiative to try and connect with a lot of you out there in the business world. And the hopes is that you will learn some new activities and new capabilities powered by Microsoft 365 that you can try at work, hence the Try This at Work initiative. There's two things I'm going to cover real quick before we get into the content. First and foremost, I would love for you to go to your favorite browser and bookmark Try This at Work. It's not .com, it's trythisat.work. And that's where you will be able to go and view all of the past recordings and all the past episodes. So if you have friends and colleagues, you'll see that we have the past events there. And so make sure you visit that site so you can see all of the scheduled upcoming events that we'll have at Try This at Work. And again, you can view all the past episodes there. So if most of you show up at work every morning, there's a chance that your business is asking you to help make decisions about things, right? And so Power BI, if you're not familiar with it, you're going to learn all about it today. I've got a friend and colleague of mine, Jack Bradham, here with me. And so one of the things that we're going to do is show off all of the data analysis and visualization capabilities powered by Power BI, which comes with Microsoft 365. And so, Jack, I'm going to hand it over to you and sit back, relax, folks, and enjoy the session.
Cool. Good morning, everybody. Jack Bradham here. Excited to do this. I'm excited about Power BI. I don't think a lot of people know that Power BI is a part of the Office 365 family now. I think a lot of folks, just sort of believe that that's a part of the Microsoft Data Tools package, that kind of goes along with SQL Server or goes along with, some of our really advanced stuff in Azure like ML and Azure Analysis Services, all the cool stuff that we're doing in that space, and certainly Power BI takes advantage of that. But what we really want Power BI to be is a tool for everyone in the organization. We're trying to make data accessible and analysis accessible. So as you kind of know, everything is about data is cool right now in terms of people getting out there and using it and taking advantage of it. People are actually changing how they run their businesses, and this isn't new, right? This has been around for a few years now, or for maybe even longer than a few years. But businesses are saying, look, if I can't make decisions with my data to really better the business, then I'm not competitive. And as a result, everybody's moving to this idea of I need to have a data-based culture, not database, a data-based culture inside my business. So everyone, I make the joke, everyone from the janitor, maybe he wants to figure out how many toilets he's cleaning per hour or how many floors he's sweeping per hour, whatever. He's trying to make his work life easier, or his CEO who's trying to understand the contribution margin of his sales employees, whatever. We want this to be available for everyone, and that's why we're placing it in Office 365. That's why we're making it available with things like E5. Fantastic product, and we're really pushing to make it a data culture for you. The product itself has actually been out since about July 2015. We're working exceedingly hard on the product to make sure that it meets everyone's expectations. I don't want you to think it's only been around a while. What we're doing, or what we did in 2015, was we made all the assets that we had worked so hard on for so long, like SQL Server Analysis Services and reporting services and SQL Server stuff, all these cool things available to our customers in one project, in one package, one cohesive, one easy to consume thing under the code name Power BI. So if you're familiar with Excel, if you're familiar with Power Pivot and all those tools that you used prior to that time, those things are still available. Now we're doing really well. We have over 200,000 customers using and delivering data with us. We're releasing features on a monthly basis. This is a cloud-based product, as you're going to find out. So Power BI is a SaaS service. At its heart, we're going to learn about how to use that today. But keep in mind, as we release features, as we roll out new stuff from 2015 and until today, it's made much more possible because we have access directly to the solution in the cloud. And what's great for you is you get those updates, you get those new features directly delivered to you without having to really do anything at all. And again, we're releasing new features monthly to Power BI, and we think it's really turning out. Now, there can be some on-premise parts of Power BI. We're going to sort of walk through that. At its heart, it is a cloud solution. So to get started, you really don't have to do anything whatsoever to take advantage of it, other than logging in and getting set up. Again, Microsoft is doing really well with this product, and we think the industry is seeing it. So we just encourage you to check it out and make sure that you're seeing the value and the advantages that are coming along with it as well. We're going to focus in today just in two small areas, Power BI Desktop and Power BI Pro. This is a part of an ecosystem, so if you're trying to deploy to hundreds of thousands of report consumers, or if you're building large-scale web applications, you can certainly take advantage of this as well, but we're really focusing on the end user today. And I think that's a great and easy place to sort of get started. So I want to stop with the slides now. I know I gave you a good 4 minutes of slides there. I like to use less slides as much as possible, because I think people just get the most out of it by diving right in. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just exit my slides here. Hit the down button. So when you want to take advantage of Power BI, as a user, and I'll just go ahead and tell you, we hand out trials. And even after we hand out trials for the Pro version, we also hand out free accounts. So it's very easy for you to take advantage of Power BI. The first step is just going to PowerBI.com. You don't have to install anything right off the bat. You can immediately sort of take advantage of this. Now, I'm going to click here. I'm going to click sign in. Now, if I don't have an account, then I can certainly go back and click the sign up for free. And again, that's going to give you a trial. I'm using, I'm lucky, I'll be honest right now. I'm benefiting from the fact that I'm on premises here at the Microsoft Office, and I'm actually able to sort of take advantage of the fact that I have Azure Active Directory single sign-on and pass-through authentication and so forth. And those are all really cool things you don't need to know about, but because I'm signed in here on my Active Directory, I'm just going to pass right through to the Power BI portal, and I can get started from there. So I kind of like to follow a little bit of a plan in terms of how I present the Power BI to our customers. I kind of like to go through almost a role play. But before I get started, I just want to kind of take a little tour of Power BI. And so, of course, Power BI is a part of the Office 365 offering. So if you start in the top right-hand corner, or sorry, no, that's left-hand, my other right hand. In the top left-hand corner, you're going to see all the other things that are available to me as a part of Office 365. I'm not going to switch in there. I'm just pointing that out. As we sort of go across here, we have favorites. That's what I'm looking at currently. Those are dashboards or reports, etc., that I'm interested in. Here's some notifications to just tell me what's going on. Here's my deep settings, and here's some things that I may want to download to my desktop. And I told you, hey, there's some things that are available that are on premises for you, that are not built into the cloud. For instance, one of the ones that we're going to focus on today a little bit is Power BI Desktop. That allows you to build and create your reports on premises without having to be immediately connected to the internet or anything like that. It just kind of makes it easier for users to work without being in the web browser. You'll see some other things like data gateways and Power BI for mobile. That's something that we may get to today. We may get to actually showing you the mobile device experience with Power BI. So every report that you create, you can show on a mobile device. And there's nothing more than just you creating the standard report, adding it here. You know, you don't have to do anything to make the report, quote unquote, a mobile report. That report will be available. And Brent may help me actually show you that. So anyway, if you're sitting there at your desk and my droning on is too much for you, pick up your phone, you know, check out the mobile app. It's in the app stores in iOS and Android. So cool. Let's kind of skip over that for now. You'll see my authentication. It knows who I am. Moving over to the sidebar, I have my favorites. Again, that's where I'm already at. Recents, you guys understand what recents are. It's the same thing as recent files in, say, Word or Excel. You know, that's just where you're at. We're going to skip over apps. Apps is a little advanced for today. We don't need to worry about that. But, you know, it's safe to say that's a way for me to create and publish a collection of reports, dashboards, etc., that essentially looks like an app to the user. Makes it really easy. The first thing I want to show in depth here, though, is workspaces. So if you're familiar with Office 365 groups, that's essentially what we're creating here. Workspaces give us a way to collect reports and dashboards, and it's based on Office 365 groups. So if you have an Office 365 group already available to you, you'll see it in this list. Again, a workspace is a little bit of an extension to an Office 365 group in that it creates a way to look at your reports and dashboards. So just for our demo today, I'm going to create a workspace just so that it shows up at the top of the list. I'm going to do the old 1A trick so that I don't have to search and find for it. And then I'll just name it, you know, something like try this at work. And you have to excuse me, I have a little bit of a cough today. So that's going to tell me that's an available name. That name's going to show up in URLs, so it's important that I make sure it's available. I can set different security settings here today, meaning I can decide who can see and edit or work on the contents of this workspace with me. Very easy to set up. Since Brent is working with me today, I'm going to go ahead and add him early on here to the workspace. I'm going to go ahead and give him edit permissions just to leave it that way. I could certainly turn him down to view only if I wanted to, but with that I think I'm okay. So I'll just click save, and you can see it'll go ahead and create my workspace. Now as a user, you automatically get your own workspace right off the get-go. So I'm going to go back here and just point that out, my workspace at the top. And you see all the workspaces that I have available to me. So once this little guy pops up for me, we'll go back to the workspace that we just created. You can see it's at the top of the list. That's why I did the A1. And it also has that diamond. Now that diamond means something special. I'm going to get rid of that diamond right now because I don't want that for our demo today. But essentially what that means is that's a premium workspace solution, and every user who has access could take advantage of that. So I'm going to switch over to my workspace, and we'll go ahead and get started here with actually getting some reports and dashboards. So this workspace here is empty, no dashboards, no reports, no workbooks. Workbooks, if you're wondering, are just Excel workbooks. No data sets and no data pools. You're benefiting from seeing data pools because I'm on a demo version or a beta version of Power BI. That may not be available in your screen. That's sort of a super secret Microsoft thing that I get that makes me feel special. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Get Data down at the bottom while I'm in this solution. And the reason for that is because I want to grab data to begin to work with, right? So that's sort of key to keep in mind is when we start working with Power BI, we're going to start grabbing files and working with those files or working with that database immediately. Data is at the core. So how do we get access to that data? Being right in the browser, I'm just going to click local file. I'm going to keep this kind of straightforward just so everyone can see the power here. I'm going to look on my desktop. And I have a cute little data folder here, and I have a product XLX. Always mess this up. Product Excel sheet, but it's XLSX, right? So we're just going to import that. And it's going to ask me, okay, are you adding an Excel file because you just want to, show that in the workbook section, or are you actually trying to get the data out of it? And the truth is, I'm just trying to get the data out of it. I'm not trying to upload that Power BI, I'm not trying to upload that Excel sheet to Power BI. And you'll notice, so some kind of cool things happened almost immediately just by uploading that. I got a thing here called a data set, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And I also got a thing called a dashboard, and it tells me that I'm already on the dashboard, which is kind of interesting. So how do I, make use of that data now that it's sort of been updated? Well, I have this dashboard thing. So one of the cool things that we can do with Power BI, once our data is there, is we can just begin to ask questions of it. Now, this data set isn't particularly interesting. It's really just product data about sales, so or manufacturing data. So I'm going to go into, and if you missed that, I just clicked on the ask a question about your data thing. What we call that is natural language query. This is where I can begin to just ask questions. And since I know this is products, I'm just going to say, okay, what can I ask about the question? What can I ask about the products? And you can see the different things that are sort of about the products here. So I'll just say, well, how many products are there? Count of products, right? I'll just do that. See what we get. Count of products. Oh, okay. Well, there's 2,172. Well, that's an interesting KPI. I'm gonna just pin that. No, I'm gonna pin that little answer back and say, okay, well, that's interesting. I want to keep that around for a while. So then I'm gonna say, okay, it's asking me to make a dashboard here. So I'm making a dashboard with this visualization. All right, well, I don't like the name Product XSL, so I'm just going to create my own custom one. So I'll just call it Products Dashboard. I'll just call it Products because we already know it is a dashboard. It's in context. Say, okay, interesting. So what Power BI is popping up here now is saying, okay, you have a dashboard available. That's pretty neat. Also have the data set available. And as you can see, what's happened underneath my workspace now is I have a new dashboard. I'm not really done asking questions, however. I want to keep asking some questions. So let's see, count of products by, let's see what else is available to me. I'm not sure. Oh, we got segment there. So let's do that. Count of products. Oh, so I got a chart this time, as opposed to just a readout. So I'm going to pin that visual. I'm going to pin it back to the same dashboard, products, pin that up. Okay, great. No, I don't want to go there immediately. I'm not done asking questions. Let's go on to something like products by, and let's just see what it has available to me. We'll just say category. Okay, category is available. Oh, that's pretty neat. I'll go ahead and pin that one too. That shows me how many products I got in a particular category. And also, let's see if we can make this a little more in depth. Product by segment. Okay, that's starting to get interesting. So I can see the number of products per segment in each category. So just keep pinning here. This is cool, but at the same time, my management chain is probably going to want to see data from in a tabular format. So I'm going to type as, this is a little trick you're going to learn today. I can just say, okay, can you show me that as a matrix, as opposed to, you know, really just showing me a visualization. This is a type of visualization, but this gives me, you know, hard numbers that I can really look at. So I'll just pin that visual as well. Okay, cool. So now I've kind of asked enough questions. I've kind of made myself clear on what I was hoping to do, and sort of getting some data out of that. So I'm going to jump over to the dashboard. Now I could have clicked one of those links very quickly, but I'm just going to click on the products dashboard. And you can now see, okay, all those visualizations that I sort of asked questions about are now here. And I can organize this dashboard to look sort of like what I want it to. And I noticed that this is pretty cool. I like the type of information that I get here. But I also wonder, am I missing something in my data that I don't necessarily know? It sort of would be really cool if Power BI could tell me things that maybe I should consider about the data that I've uploaded. Like if it had algorithms that it could run to sort of make these visualizations real without me having to figure that out. Okay, so what I can do is I can actually go to the data set and ask and see if Power BI can do anything with that data. And so what Power BI does when I upload a report like that, or upload an Excel file, is it just creates a data set out of it. And one of the features that Power BI has is it has a little tool here called Quick Insights. So if I click Quick Insights, what Power BI is going to do on my behalf is go through that data and look at it and say, okay, based on the names and based on the types of data that we're seeing, let us see if there's anything that you may be interested in knowing about. It's like, okay. So I'm going to run that command and then click View Insights. And now I'm going to start seeing what Power BI sort of came up on my, you know, for me, right? It's going to say, okay, well, here's some things that I noticed. It says urban is a very large segment for manufacturer number 8. Well, that's interesting. Okay, and it also, you know, I don't know that I'm interested in that. That's interesting. Next category, oh, urban. Wow, urban seems to be the largest percentage of my product set. All right, other things here, count of product. Most of my products are labeled by segment in convenience or moderation, which kind of makes sense. There's also some sort of correlation between these two tables, and the secret is those are the same two tables, so I'm not surprised that it's finding high correlation there. So, you know, out of all the insights that it provided, and it's telling me how it came up with these insights, you know, sort of the one that that sort of pops out immediately to me is this one, that the count of BI products for urban is much, much larger than that for other categories. Well, I think I might want to keep that information around. So I'm going to pin that visual. I'm going to pin it to that existing dashboard. I'm going to just click and go to that dashboard. And now you'll see that visualization is there. Now, that's something I might want to put right up here on top. And I might want to just sort of fill in this little gap with it that was there. And I'm going to reorganize this so that I can make it look the way I want it to look, just right out of the box. Now, great. Now, you may be asking, okay, well, who can see this dashboard right now? There's a couple things. Anybody who's in the workspace, when I created the workspace, anybody who I added as a group member can see that, and they can make use of it right out of the gate. I don't have to do any saving, anything like that. I can also just click the share button and send that to other friends of mine. So I have a guy that I work with pretty closely. He won't be surprised if I send him a notification saying, hey, I'm sharing this dashboard with you. And I'm also going to say, can he share this beyond himself? His name's Shah Rukh. Can he share this beyond himself? And should he be notified, or is he just going to see this in his dashboards under shared with me in the sidebar over here later? Doesn't really matter. He doesn't care. I'm going to not send him an email so he doesn't worry about it. And I don't care if he edits it or shares it with other people. This is standard stuff. So I'll click OK. And now what's going to happen for Shah, the fellow I just shared this with, he is going to have that report available to him, or that dashboard available to him. He could even subscribe to that so that if and when this data ever changes, he would get a notification indicating, hey, Shah, by the way, the data on that dashboard changed, and you should go check it out. And this is kind of how we deal with the fact that as businesses move and change, their operational reports are going to move and change, but we don't want to fill up everybody's inbox with canned reports or PDF documents to sort of for them to just be stuffed and look at. So we're going to send them a notification via email if that's how they choose to subscribe to this particular report. If they get one in a day, we're gonna save that. If they don't click on it, we're not gonna send them another one for another 24 hours, just because we don't think that it's gonna matter. They can also certainly favorite this report. That's going to add it to their favorites list, or sorry, this dashboard, so that they can come back to it easily and just get the data. But that's not necessarily something. Now, we also have this thing as set as featured. So what set as featured enables you to do is anyone who's dealing with your particular workspace, when they come to that workspace itself, they're going to see that dashboard pop up right in front of them, so that they really can't ignore it. If you're like me, you're also interested in who's looking at my reports, who's looking at my dashboards, and Power BI makes that easy. We can just have this usage metrics button at the top, and that's going to tell you, okay, who's been looking at this report, how many times, what are their distribution methods? Are they on a mobile platform? Are they just coming in the browser, etc.? All that's going to show up. Not much is showing up right now, simply because I am the only viewer, so not much interest in seeing me, but you can see how that kind of works. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, Jack, you uploaded an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah, you used your magic. You used your Microsoft magic to do some natural queries across the data without really even knowing what's there, to get some insights into it, meaning, products and segments and matrices of products and segments and, product lines by manufacturers, etc. That's pretty neat. You're pretty slick guy. However, there's something that you probably caught on. This data is not going to change because I simply uploaded a report, right? Like, I just uploaded an Excel document. Well, in the real world, life doesn't really work that way. So how do we not really get into connecting to some complex thing, maybe, but have data that's updatable? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on Get Data, and I'm going to click on Files. But this time, I'm going to do something a little different, as opposed to going directly to a local file. I'm going to click on OneDrive. Now, certainly I could use team sites. I know a lot of customers out there have SharePoint team sites available, and you can browse through that hierarchy and get to your document. I'm just going to click on the OneDrive with Microsoft. It's going to ask me to sign in, which is a little bit surprising there. So I'm going to skip back to sort of my biscuit in the oven here on my workspace. And I'll click Get Data again. And go here. Come on, old gal, help me out here. I clicked on the wrong thing. Get files. And essentially what I'm looking for here is I'm just looking for Outlook, or I'm sorry, OneDrive to go ahead and load. So I'm going to click on OneDrive for Business. That's going to then load up my folder hierarchy. If everything's working the way it's expected to work, it is. And so you can see here I have my products folder, and I have the products XLS, the exact same one that I used before, and I'm going to click connect, and I'm going to get that same question. Are you trying to upload this Excel file, or are you trying to get the data out of it? And of course, I want to get the data out of it. But again, this time I'm pulling directly from OneDrive. And what's cool about that is with OneDrive, I can update that file, and Power BI is going to automatically see the changes that are going on there, and I get exactly the same experience. I can create the exact same visualizations that I did in the earlier demonstration when I was creating visualizations for you. I can still pin those out to really beautiful dashboards, and you can go to that dashboard and see it and so forth. But the trick is here now that as the dashboard or as the data in OneDrive changes, this dashboard is going to change right along with it, and your users are going to get notifications about data changes and so forth. So just a really easy way to make your Excel data and the data that you have available there available to Power BI so that it can use the reports and so forth in a way where the data is no longer static. And you can see I do that for a number of things. This is just my Microsoft OneDrive syncing capability. So I have the products folder here. So I may want to build some really cool dashboards or reports out of CSV or Excel, or any of our flat file, JSON objects, etc. Are available for me to make reports out of, and I think that's just fantastic and in a really easy way. Now, I will tell you, Power BI has access to 70 different data sources. We've showed Excel, we've showed CSV in passing, but you should also know that you can build really extensive reports and dashboards out of data from nearly anywhere. To do that, you're probably going to want a tool that's a little more complex than just using standard Power BI in the service, meaning just going to the tool in the browser. And to do that, we're going to provide you with a free tool called Power BI Desktop. You can click the download in the top and just click Power BI Desktop here, and that will, of course, give you a download link. And for me, it automatically started. As you probably would imagine, I have this tool already installed. So if I just go to Power BI, you'll see it pop up here. Excuse me. And Power BI is going, Power BI Desktop is now going to load. So what is Power BI Desktop good for? Power BI Desktop is really good for creating reports and dashboards and manipulating data sets as you sort of want to go through that creation process as opposed to doing it all in the browser. So we can be much more complex in Power BI Desktop than we can in the browser. We can connect to any data source that we have available in Power BI Desktop, and then we can simply publish those things out. So it's notifying me, interestingly enough, that Power BI Desktop has an update. I'm going to ignore that. I don't want to deal with that during a demo, but that does point out the fact that with Power BI Desktop, we update that about quarterly at this point. And you should expect updates to sort of come along as a part of that. So it looks like I got ahead of myself and opened up 2 Power BIs. I don't need but one. You can also see that it knows who I am. It knows that I'm automatically signed in here. And that's how it's going to make the connection between me and Power BI service. So when I'm done building and creating reports here in Power BI desktop, it's going to know how to call out to the web. It's going to know how to get to my available workspaces and publish reports. So just like every sort of time we create reports and dashboards in Power BI, we're going to start by getting data. And I just want to show you a couple key things here. I'm still going to connect to Excel data to sort of start this off. I don't want to switch our understanding of the data models that we're dealing with. I'll just connect to that product, that Excel sheet, and that all happens pretty fast. And as you can see, it's going to ask me, okay, do you want to use the thing that is noted as a table, or do you want to use the raw data in the Excel spreadsheet? I like the one that's formatted as a table because I think it knows a little bit more about that. I'm just going to click load here on that. And that's, again, going to just blow up a table inside Power BI. So you'll see that in just a second. When this sort of finishes up, I think what we're going to notice here is that the table loaded and we have some stuff here that we can make sense of. Now, I could certainly just add a visualization, like if I wanted to add a table and I wanted to say, okay, give me the category, the manufacturer, and the product and the segment. I would get a very interesting, albeit boring list of products, and that would work. But rarely do we just, in the business world, get to take one group of data and operate solely on that. In fact, I need more information. This isn't really just enough for me. So I'm going to click Get Data again. This time I'm going to click CSV. I'm going to go to that same sort of folder, and you'll see that I have some data here. This is great. Here I have my sales fact table, which is essentially all these sales information that I have about sales. So I'm going to just, select that one. Click some others here. So let me start with that one. Click Open. Now, I'm going to need to do just a little bit of a song and dance here because this is going to take just a second to load. I'm going to click Edit. This table is actually over 400 megabytes worth of data, so a very, very large data set. Before I load the complete data set, I want to change the names here. I'm going to name this one Sales. I'm going to name this other one Products, right? And that just makes this much easier for me to deal with. In Power BI when I'm actually looking at the type of data that I'm dealing with. Now, products looks pretty straightforward. Nothing really needs to change there. Let me look at the columns and fields here. Oh, I see an error. I see an error in how Power BI has assumed this data works. I can see here this is a zip code, but it's noted as a 123 or a number. Well, here's a tricky thing that maybe some folks already know out there. Number is, or zip code is not a number. It is actually a text field, meaning it is a string of characters as an identifier or enumerator. So I'm just going to right click on that header and I'm going to say change type to text. It's going to ask me if I'm sure I want to do that, and I'm going to say, yep, I'm pretty sure. And as you can see, it's changed that zip code from a number to a text field. That might not be particularly interesting, but you can see that as I've gone through this process of loading the data, I'm getting a list of the things that I am doing to the data, and that's over in this right-hand side. So let's just imagine that I'm not particularly interested in the values after the decimal point, even though this is a decimal point number as revenue. I'm just not interested in that. So I'm going to split that column and get rid of the percents, right? I'm going to say split at that, okay, right in the at each instance of the delimiter. Okay, so click that. And I'm going to say whole dollar. Well, how about I just call it revenue? That's easier to deal with. And I am going to throw away the cents. This kind of reminds me of tax time. It just happens to be right around tax time to be doing this. So as you can see, all my steps of what I'm doing to manipulate this data are being listed. And if I decide, you know what, removing that column wasn't necessarily a good idea, I can just undo that and put it back. And that'll be just great. So I'm going to kind of delete a few steps there. I don't necessarily need those steps. I'm going to remove that change type as well, because if I told my manager we didn't care about part of the dollar that we earned, he probably would ask me if I lose my mind. Now, this is pretty good. I'm manipulating this data out pretty well. I do think I want a few more items to go along with it, so I'm going to grab some stuff. I'm going to grab like geo, open. That'll just get added here really quickly. I'll just click OK and load that. And so I'll just rename that to location. And as you'll notice here, I've got international values for things like the zip code. But oh, look at that! The zip code didn't actually hop into the column header. The columns are just not named right. Okay, well, that's not a problem. I have a button for that. Use first row as headers. But you can see these French zip codes, for instance, they actually are text values and not just numerical. So that makes 100% sense. Now, the last thing I'm going to do just really quickly is add one more data source. And that will be date. Okay, so I want to look at things by date. And I am going to rename this from its original name to date. Rename and date. Okay, great. Now, I'm pretty well done with this data set. Let's go ahead and load that up. Click close and apply on that. And you can see Power BI is now going to load all of those tables and so forth that I just created. But I told you that sales fact table is really, really large, almost over 400 megabytes. So I'll have to do a little song and dance here and talk about Power BI while Power BI goes through loading that data. But I think it's very interesting to consider the case here. We've taken a sales fact table and really blown it up into something very, very large. And Power BI can still handle that. And the reason Power BI can still handle that is because we have what's called columnar compression and other compression engines embedded inside Power BI. So don't worry if the data that you're looking at is exceedingly large. We're still going to be able to drag that data into Power BI and make use of it. As we know, like I was just on a customer call just yesterday afternoon, and they described their data as very, very large, millions and millions of rows. And I said, look, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. On the data set that I'm loading right in front of you now for sales fact information is probably around 100 million rows. So we don't have any trouble whatsoever sort of grabbing up really, really large data sizes. And as this runs and loads, we'll see that picked up and shown. Now, just so that you know where we're going, the objective now is to create a report and publish that report up to the Power BI service so that other users can consume it. But I want to rewind and just remind folks that what we've done so far is we've pulled data from multiple data sources. We've combined that. We've even done some transformations on the data, changing types or splitting columns and so forth. And all that's done is, or what that's referred to in the industry is ETL or transformations, and that's a really powerful task for users to be able to take advantage of. So after this guy finishes uploading, I will go ahead and start building out a report, and then we'll publish that report. And I think you're going to be pretty interested to see just how that works out. So sales fact is finished up, location and date are sort of finishing up here. And as you can see, we have all our tables now. So I am going to quickly build a report for us. I'm going to use date as a slicer. So I've just selected the slicer. And I will choose any of these that I want. Month name is always a crowd pleaser. You can see that this doesn't necessarily organize automatically in by the month name in alphabetical. We could certainly organize that by the month number if we wanted to sort it that way. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to add a real quick visualization here. Just add this guy. Oh, click the wrong thing, as usual. Click here. And I'm going to create a quick visualization just really based off our sales fact table. So I'm going to say the products by manufacturer on the X here. So then we'll use revenue on the values. And we start to see which manufacturers are doing really, really well. And I'm also going to look at segment. So let's just throw segment. Click too fast. Let's just throw segment into the legend so I can begin to get a picture of where the manufacturers are actually making their money. You say, okay, well, that's a pretty neat visual. How do these visuals interact with each other? Well, as you can see in a slicer, if I just wanted to look at a month, I could do that very easily. But what if I wanted to sort of pivot this a little bit and say, okay, not necessarily am I interested in the manufacturer as the axis. Maybe I want to look by date, and maybe I want to look by month. Well, how about we start with year? Right, let me just dump the manufacturer there. As you can see, it's telling me, oh, well, I don't see the relationships here that are going to make that possible. Totally fine, no big deal at all. I'm just going to click over and manage those relationships. Well, I could do it here, that's fine. But I can also go to the relationships tab and make it even that much easier. So I can see that my date does not have a relationship with my sales table. Not exactly sure why Power BI did not detect that, but just to add the relationship in order to make it real, I just click date. Go back to the chart, and now you can see that that works. And you can also see that I now have a drill through functionality that's available to me. If I want to switch down and look at what happened in each particular month, I can do that. I can go all the way up to the top, and I can always go back down to the bottom. And you can see I can even drag down to you can really get into just about any sort of hierarchy that you want to. I'll go all the way back up. I'll go down. I'll drill into quarter here, and then month, and all the way back up. And so these slicers are absolutely interactive as well. So if I wanted to use this particular visualization as a slicer as opposed to having a slicer like so, I can click on any particular portion of the chart and get slicing and filtering on the rows. So I'm just going to imagine that I'm completely happy with this report. Notice I called it a report there. So I'm going to go ahead and publish that report up. How do I do that? I click publish. Well, before I do that, I'm going to need to save it out. So I'll click save here. Sales report. Right? Save that out. Looking great. Really impressed. You guys should be really impressed with a complex visual like that. Let me go and publish that up. So when I do that, Power BI is now going to ask me, okay, where do you want to stick this? And I'm just going to say I'm going to put it in that workspace that I already created. And it will go through the process of now loading that data up. Now, you may think, well, you just loaded up 400 megabytes of data plus Power BI is going to compress that down pretty succinctly and pretty quickly. So the actual publishing of this report is not going to be 400 megabytes worth of data getting sent up to PowerBI.com. And as a result, it really shouldn't take that long. In fact, it's already over. And if I want to look at this report in Power BI, great, I can do that. I just click on that link, and now you can see that this report is in Power BI. So just as a quick set of things to remember, this is in that one Try This at Work folder. You'll see the data set is now here. Once you've built out that data model, once you've gone through that process of building the data model, you can just click on the data set itself, and you can then come in, and all of those tables and reports and data points are available to you. Just like it was when we added up the product data set from earlier. And you can create your own reports here right in the service. You don't have to have Power BI Desktop to do that. What did we use Power BI Desktop for? For creating a really cool data model and a pretty extensive yet simple visualization on that. So that's available now and working. So just to sort of round it out, we can certainly do quick insights on that same data set. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to point out is, though, that this is a report. And while I created this cool visualization, I'm going to click to pin that visual to the desktop, or I'm sorry, to the dashboard. And to do that, just go like so, which is pretty neat. Now you can see that visualization is here. And what I want to point out is that this is a dashboard that is built from multiple report sources and multiple data sets. And that's essentially where reports and dashboards are different. So that's why we have two different things here. One's a dashboard and one's a report. The report is connected distinctly to one data set, whereas the dashboard itself, it's all over the place in terms of what data sources are coming from where. Now, let's just imagine too that I wanted to share that report out with some other folks. Well, here's some really neat stuff. So I'm going to open up Microsoft Teams. I am going to go to Teams. And you can see here that I have a pretty neat team. I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to say, hey, Power BI. So now anyone who is in that team can take advantage of the reports and dashboards that are created inside PowerBI.com. So I'm going to switch the workspace here once that pops up for me. I don't know. Switch my workspace to, let's see, what did I name it? 1.8, try this at work. I'll see the report that I just created. Click Save. And now what that makes available is all this Power BI reporting and dashboarding and data sets and data models that I've built and made available in Power BI is now available for collaboration in Teams. So we've shown how we can really just grab some data almost anywhere. We can grab it from OneDrive if we want to just constantly copy over that file in OneDrive. That data will get updated in Power BI. We've seen how we can, build reports in Power BI and dashboards using just natural language query and questions. And I will point out, natural language query also works in Power BI Desktop. If you see the little Ask a Question button here, you can use it in much the same way. So all that's available to you. We've also seen how we can integrate it, build really complex data sets and integrate that with Teams. One other thing I think we're going to do to finish it up today is to show you what something like this is going to look like in the mobile browser. So, Brent, if you got your device, okay. So you got the Power BI app. Let's launch that.
There is that beautiful sheet or that dashboard that you created. Sorry, I'm moving my phone around.
Works in landscape too, folks.
Yeah, so that is cool. A pretty responsive UI there. But this is the dashboard, one of the many that Jack has created for other customers as demos. All interactive data, right? I can click on some of this stuff and it automatically allows me to go in and kind of dive in and slice and dice the data.
Yeah, and the visuals get pretty complicated, which is what I really like about it. Hopefully that'll show, but you can get some really beautiful visuals here as well.
Yep. So listen, we appreciate your time. We know that you took an hour out of your day to join us. Again, this initiative is all about you guys and allowing you to learn some new things about Microsoft 365. Specifically, in this session, we covered a lot around data analysis and visualization, all powered by Microsoft 365. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you go and again, bookmark trythisapp.work to keep up with all of the future shows and sessions that we'll be driving. And we appreciate your time, and thanks, and goodbye for now.
Good day.